You're standing on what feels like solid ground. White flat, endless. Then you hear it. A deep crack, rolling somewhere under your boots. The ground moves. It's not land. It's a sheet of sea ice, floating in the Greenland Sea. Your only ship has just been crushed and swallowed under that ice. No radio, no GPS. And this actually happened in 1869. 14 men, 6 months. In the coming days, they'll try something almost unbelievable. They'll turn that drifting ice into their ship. They'll even build a house out of coal on that moving ice. The question isn't just whether they survive. It's what the ice will turn them into before it lets them go. Summer 1869. The Arctic is still a blank at the top of European maps. Countries are racing north, and Germany joins the race. It sends the German North Polar Expedition with 2 ships. Germania, the main, stronger exploration vessel. And Hansa, the smaller support ship under Captain Paul Hegeman, loaded with coal and extra supplies. The plan is simple. Sail together to East Greenland. Set up a base. Germania explores. Hansa keeps everyone supplied through the winter. They push north until they hit the edge of the East Greenland ice pack. A maze of broken floes, ridges, and black water. August 1869. Fog rolls in. Visibility crashes. The last thing Hansa's crew see of Germania is the top of her mainmast, disappearing into the gray. Then she's gone. Hansa edges into thicker ice. The gaps between floes freeze shut. Days pass. The ship is locked tighter and tighter. September 1869. By September, Hansa is no longer moving through the ice. The ice is moving her. And here the pack usually drifts one way. South away from their mission, out into the wide, storm-hit Greenland Sea. The ocean has taken control of the ship's course. Soon it will take the ship itself. Autumn storms hammer the Greenland Sea. Wind slams floe into floe. New ice grinds into old. Pressure builds around Hansa's hull. Hegeman and his men try everything they know. They saw channels in the ice around the hull, trying to give the pressure somewhere else to go. They brace the ship from the inside. It doesn't work. October 1869. By October, the ice is squeezing Hansa like a vice. The crew hears it first. Deep groans. Sharp cracks like gunshots as timbers fail. The deck twists. Iron braces complain under a force no human machine can resist. Hegeman understands. He gives the order, prepare to abandon ship. On the surrounding ice in freezing wind, men drag off whatever they can. Because everything they get off that ship is everything they'll have for the next 6 months. Every barrel they miss is calories they'll never get back. They pull food in water barrels, sails and ropes, their gear, the lifeboats, and a larger open boat, the launch. They work while their ship dies behind them. On 19 October 1869, Hansa loses the fight. The hull ruptures. Water surges in under the ice. The ship heels, shudders, and disappears beneath the pack. When it's over, 14 men stand on a drifting floe. With what they've managed to save. With a few small boats. No land in sight. Winter closing in. And now the ground beneath them is not land. It's a moving, unstable sheet of ice. They have only 2 possible paths. And both can end in death. The men of Hansa now face a brutal decision. Option 1, try to walk across the pack toward Greenland. That means endless ridges to climb. Cracks of open water to cross. Slow, exhausting. And a storm could split the pack while they're spread out, cutting them off from their own supplies. Option 2, stay on the floe they're already on. Pick the thickest piece. Let it drift south, and maybe over many weeks west around the tip of Greenland, toward the settled southwest coast. Climb onto a moving island of ice, and ride it. If you were there, what would you choose? Risk weeks of marching over breaking ice you can barely see in the dark. Or trust a slab of frozen sea to carry you somewhere you can't even see. Captain Hegeman and his officers study their charts. What they know about Greenland Sea currents. and how much food, coal, and gear they have. They pick the largest, thickest floe under their feet. Here, they make a decision that is still unique in polar history. They decide, we will turn this ice into our ship. They don't know it yet, but the floe they've chosen will shatter under them before summer. First priority, don't freeze to death. On open ice in late October, cold kills faster than hunger. From Hansa, they've rescued something strange but priceless. Tons of coal. On land, coal is fuel. Here, it's also building material. Using planks and beams ripped from the ship's cabins, they frame a small hut on the floe. For walls, they stack coal briquettes like bricks. They pack cloth and snow into the gaps to be. Lock the wind. Inside, they place a small stove. A stovepipe pokes through the roof. They call it the coal house, the coal house. Black against a world of white. Warmth against killing wind. By the time the first real storm hits, the coal house is just barely ready. 14 men can squeeze inside, out of the open wind. Shelter is not enough. A ship is not just a hull. It's how it catches the wind. Hansa is gone. But they've salvaged some of her rigging. Normally, a mast stands in the wooden body of a ship. No sane sailor plans to plant one in ice. Because if your hull cracks here, you don't just sink. Your whole world does. On the thickest part of the floe, near the coal house, they drive a sturdy spar into the ice. They anchor it with ropes frozen into the surface. They hoist a square of sailcloth. They know the floe is huge and heavy. But even a massive slab of ice can feel the wind if you give it something to push. Combined with the current, that little bit of extra force might nudge their drifting island toward a better coast instead of a worse one. The mast gives them something else, height. Climbing it, they can see pressure ridges grinding their way toward them, and narrow lanes of open water cutting through the pack. Picture it. A low black coal house. A single mast with a torn sail. All of it standing not on land, but on a floating sheet of ice. A few meters of frozen seawater under their boots. Hundreds of meters of dark ocean under that. That is their ship now. Mid-November 1869. The polar night begins. By mid-November, the sun disappears. For weeks, there's no real sunrise or sunset. Just a brief, dim twilight each day. The rest is darkness. The floe drifts south along East Greenland. They track their movement with a sextant, and rare glimpses of stars through broken cloud. Their logbook shows them sliding slowly to lower latitudes. Inside the coal house, the temperature hovers just above freezing. Frost creeps across the walls. They fight back with routine. The first real winter storm hits in the dark. Wind howls over the floe. Snow slams into the coal house, building up until the hut is almost buried. Inside, the stove roars but the walls shudder. Outside, ropes snap in the wind. They hear one of the boats slide. 2 men pull on their boots, clip lines around their waists, and crawl out into the blizzard. The world is just noise and white. They find the boats more by touch than sight. Dig them out of snow, drag them back from a fresh crack opening at the edge. They get back inside soaked with frozen spray. Nobody sleeps much that night. Food from the ship will not be enough. Without fresh meat, scurvy will kill them. One gray day, they spot movement near a lead of open water. A seal hauling itself up onto the ice. 2 men grab rifles and creep forward, crawling over the rough surface. The ice near the edge is thinner. Every step is a test. The first shot goes wide. The seal jerks, starts to slide toward the water. The second shot hits. As they rush in to pull the carcass away from the edge, one man's foot punches straight through a weak spot. Freezing water surges into his boot. His friend hauls him back by the collar. They drag the seal away from the crack, then drag the half-frozen man back toward the coal house. If they hadn't killed that seal, they would have lost him. If they hadn't almost lost him, they might not have understood how thin their safety net really is. Seal meat and liver become medicine. Day 80+ on the floe. By now they've burned through more than a third of their coal. One night when the stove burns low and the wind is clawing at the walls, two men argue. One wants to throw on more coal. Better warm now than dead later, he snaps. The other says no. Later might be months from now. They don't know how long this drift will last. It's not really about one lump of coal. It's about whether anyone still believes they'll see land. Hegemon settles it with a rule. How much they burn each watch, no matter how they feel. They build routines inside chaos. Because routine is the only thing standing between discipline and panic. Sea ice looks solid. It's a floating skin, always moving, always under stress. Their chosen floe is broad and thick, but not unbreakable. Cracks leads can open with no warning. A lead can cut across their camp, or drop chunks of their world straight into the sea. Each morning they walk the perimeter. Each morning the perimeter is shorter. Once in the middle of the night, a crack tears across the floe toward the coal house. The ice shakes. Men rush out into freezing darkness. They drag the boats and food barrels away from the widening gap. By morning, the hut is still standing, but only a few meters from a black channel of open water. Moments like that teach them to read the ice. They learn the sounds. Sharp snaps that mean a fresh break is racing across the surface. They learn what means, move now. Day 100 plus on the floe. By now, they've spent more than 100 days living on a moving slab of ice. They are thinner. Food and coal are lower. No one is dead. Not yet. As they drift farther south, the water beneath them grows a little warmer. Waves start to run under the pack. The floe rises and falls, flexing like a giant frozen raft. More motion means more stress. More stress means more cracks. Their floating world is getting weaker. 20 May 1870. Around 7 months have passed since Hansa sank. The sun is back. The edges of the pack are loosening. Cracks appear more and more often. Then one day, a different sound. Not a small fissure. A deep, powerful crack, tearing through the heart of their floe. Their island shudders. Splits into jagged sections. The coal house trembles. Boats tilt as different chunks of ice move to different levels. For a moment, it looks like everything is about to disintegrate under their feet. But Captain Hegemon has seen this coming. For weeks, they've been quietly repacking the boats with food, water, and tools. Now in chaos they act. On unstable ice, with new cracks opening around them, they load the last barrels and bags into the launch and the 2 smaller boats. Grab what they can from inside the coal house. And leave behind what they must, before it slides toward a widening gap. As they push one of the boats toward open water, the ice right under the bow gives way. The boat lurches forward, half dropping into the crack. 3 men throw their weight onto the stern, heaving it back up and over onto a more solid piece. One misstep in that boat, and everyone in it would be gone. No speeches. No ceremony. Just speed. They reach a lead of open water. Push the boats in. 14 men climb aboard. For months, the floe has been both prison and lifeline. Now they leave it behind to break and melt alone. Their next battle will be on something more familiar, and in some ways just as dangerous. Open water. In small boats. On a freezing sea. They're in open boats now. Freezing water on every side. The coast of Greenland, somewhere ahead. They are somewhere off southeast Greenland, near the latitude of Cape Farewell. But months of drifting ice make exact navigation difficult. Their goal is simple. Reach the southwest coast of Greenland, where small Danish settlements and Inuit communities exist. Between them and safety are fog, and icebergs and hidden rocks. They rig makeshift sails. They row when the wind fails. The water is near freezing. If a boat capsizes, anyone in it has minutes to live. Some days thick fog wraps them in solid gray. They can barely see beyond the bow. Other days, the air clears just enough to show a dark line on the horizon. Land maybe. Then just as quickly, it vanishes back into the mist. If the first land you've seen in months appeared, and then disappeared into fog minutes later. What would that do to your morale? They are already worn down from 6 months on the floe. Now every hour at the oars, every minute bailing water, drains what little strength they have left. And yet compared to the ice, there is something new here. Direction. They can feel the current. Read the wind. Choose a course. For the first time in a long time, their fate feels at least partly in their own hands. Then finally it happens. They see coastline. Not a vague smudge. A real shore close. Cliffs, rocks. And most important, signs of human life. Smoke from chimneys. Small huts. Boats pulled up on land. By late June 1870, the survivors of Hansa beached their boats near a Danish settlement on Greenland's southwest coast, likely near today's Pommiat. The hull scrapes gravel. Not ice, gravel, stone. One man steps out and his legs buckle. Not from weakness, but because his body has forgotten what it feels like when the ground doesn't move. Greenlandic Inuit and Danish colonists come down to the shore. They see clothes patched from canvas and scraps, and 14 gaunt, weathered men. The locals offer what survivors need most. Warm rooms. Fresh food that doesn't come from a barrel. Messages go back to Europe. The ship Hansa is gone. But in a shocking twist, every single man from her crew is alive. 14 out of 14. They did not just survive a shipwreck. They survived half a year on moving ice, and then escaped it in small boats across freezing seas. The original expedition wanted maps and measurements. Most of that came from Germania. Hansa's drift accidentally tested something else. How far a single floe can travel, and how long a small group can live on drifting ice with only what they salvage. But the real lesson wasn't in the data. It was in how they thought. From the moment Hansa was crushed, they didn't cling to the wreck, hoping the ice would let it go. They accepted reality. Vast. They asked, what do we have? What can we turn it into? How do we stay organized? They turned coal from fuel into bricks for a house. They turned rigging into a mast in the ice to catch any extra wind. They turned scientific instruments from research tools into survival tools, tracking their drift toward possible safety. They let go of their original mission, exploring Greenland, and built a new one, survive long enough to reach land. They didn't romanticize the Arctic. They treated it as what it is. A moving, unreliable platform that can save you or kill you, depending on how you behave. If you boil their mindset down, you get 4 simple rules. Accept what's gone. Use everything in new ways. Build routines inside chaos. Keep going, even with no guarantees. You see versions of these same rules in almost every great survival story. Today, satellites watch every major floe in the Greenland Sea. But if you look at a winter satellite image of East Greenland, you can still see it. Long rivers of ice drifting south. Huge, solid slabs carried slowly toward the Atlantic. In 1869, one of those slabs carried a black house made of coal. A single mast planted in frozen ocean. And 14 men who refused to lie down and freeze. They didn't conquer the Arctic. No one really does. They simply endured it long enough to escape. If you want to step into more real survival stories like this, from polar seas to jungles, deserts, mountains, even the edge of space, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this story made those white areas on the map feel a little more real, hit like so YouTube shows it to more people who care about true survival stories like this.